Lindsay Judson. My name's Dr. Judd. We're at Pro Health Chiropractic Center here, and we're going to interview what I consider to be a successful mom. She's had career changes. She was a nurse. She left the nursing world to pursue her own endeavors in marketing and nutritional products. She now owns, her and her husband do a real estate company now where they're doing rental properties, and she's co-managing all this with two crazy twins and a 1-year-old. So I just want to introduce her and ask her some really good questions that I think help you as mom, and we're going to weave in some chiropractic stuff, just how she come over some of those fears and things too. So Lindsay, take it away. Tell us a little more about what you're doing. And
well, we actually, my family, me, my husband, and my 3 girls, we actually have we do prevention here at Pro Health. We pay a monthly thing, and we come usually about once weekly. Every once in a while we'll come more than that. My husband sometimes comes twice a month. He's a man. They do what they want, and that's cool. So me and the girls come up here about once a week. Like he said, I was a critical care and ER nurse for about 10 years. And after I had my baby, who is 18 months now, just some things have been going on. I had been kind of making some decisions. Jody and I had been having some conversations, and I decided that I was going to work for myself and work from home. So I kind of have 2 different things going on. Most of the time, the girls are with me, driving me completely nuts in my home office. Other times I do have a in-home babysitter that comes and spends time with them so that I can talk to my people and get my stuff done. But most of the time, they're with me, which is what I wanted. And that was the whole point of me working from home.
cool. So I've known you for about, I guess, 10 years now, and I've just seen a huge change. One of the biggest things that I've seen as a mom, kind of as your transition into more of this entrepreneurial kind of spirit, is and I'm gonna go ahead and ask this question. Your fear of public speaking is it seems almost that it's gone. You're really good on camera. And how did you overcome that doing Facebook Lives and stuff like that?
I didn't really have a fear of public speaking necessarily. I'm not really shy, but I had an immense fear of Facebook Live for whatever reason. Actually, when I started getting interested in online marketing, that was one thing that I told a friend. I said, this is really, I think, where it's at for all business, not just for what I'm doing as far as social media marketing and stuff, but one thing I will never do is Facebook Live. And I made this huge point out of that, and about 2 weeks later, that same person showed up at my house and made me do it on her page. So what I realized is that it's really no different. We spend a lot of our time on social media, so it's really no different than just talking to your friend. That's the way that I look at it. One thing that I would tell people, if it's something that you want to do, or maybe you just want to get out of your little comfort zone, is to just embrace the suck at first. You're not going to be that great right at the beginning. It may be a little awkward. The first one that I did by myself, I think I did one in a private group that maybe had 100 people or so, but the first one I ever did, like to the public setting, which is to 2 billion people, and it was actually part of a challenge, which is sort of what this is. This is a challenge that Dr. Judd has been issued for us to do, a live video with a patient, which I am. But I just kind of had to step up because I was challenged in a private group that I was in to do a live video, and so I just kind of needed that push. So that's what I did. Yeah,
absolutely. That's how I would never do these and just voluntarily do it. I'm like, oh, you got to do one. I'm going to do one. You're going to do one. So kind of switching it over, maybe out of what you do as a mom. This is a question that I got. What is the best mom advice you've gotten from another mother that you implemented into your life that has maybe made the biggest impact?
So after I had the twins, I had been home for maybe a couple weeks. Actually, we were home. We were actually in NICU for about 3 weeks with one of our twins. So we actually lived in Dallas in a hotel. So right after I came home, a schedule is really important with the twins. So I was basically awake more or less about 22 hours a day for 6 or 8 weeks. So one of my good friends, Carrie Dunn, she was a mom. Her youngest one is just a little bit older than the twins. She said Dakota had just started getting some kind of refluxy stuff, and so she just screamed all the time. And the only way that she would be comforted is if she was held up, at a 90-degree angle by an adult. And so I had to hold her all the time. And, it was just stressful. We were making it, but it was stressful. And one day Carrie told me, she called to check on me, which, we should all do for new moms. And she said, you know what? Hold her. She said, hold her as much as you need to hold her. She said, sometimes the mama just has to hold the baby, and sometimes the mama just has to sleep. So what I did is I would get her in the evenings, and I would prop up on the couch, and I would sleep with her on my chest just because I was so tired. And I would literally hear that voice hanging, running through my head of Carrie saying it was okay for me to do that. And I actually have told that to a lot of my friends that are new moms, because you're just so strung out and you're so stressed out. Sometimes you just got to hold the baby, and sometimes the mama just has to sleep. However those two things have to happen, they have to happen.
So a good follow-up to that's some great advice. Just do it innately.
Hold the baby.
That you know to do as a mom. A follow-up question to that is a good Tim Ferriss question I love is like what product or perhaps even service that it's $100 or less that you think that's made the most significant impact in maybe perhaps raising your girls or as a mom?
Okay, this is going to sound silly. If you've ever done this, you will agree. So probably less than $100, it's two products. A car charger, it looks like a car phone charger for your breast pump, and a hands-free pumping bra. So I had to, for one twin I pumped exclusively, for the other twin I nursed. I had to get real creative about how all that worked, because it's kind of a lot. It's like two completely separate entities. And so if I was on the way to work, or if I was driving to Dallas or something like that, that's all I did. I mean, basically my life revolved around nursing and pumping. So I had to make, use of my empty time. I don't know if that's illegal or not. I mean, somebody would have to tell me. I guess you could just wait till you got pulled over and try
Google that.
Yeah, somebody Google that. But it works, and it helps. You got to make the most of your time while you've got it. So, $100. That's probably what, $70, 40 and 30 maybe. I don't know. It's worth it.
That one.
It's worth it.
Cool. I wasn't expecting that answer. So I guess to kind of follow up to that, maybe the best book that you've read. I know my wife has read lots of books on all kind of parenting strategies, nutritional strategies. Maybe it's not just parenthood or motherhood. What is probably the most influential book relating around your kids or raising kids that you got the most value out of that you would recommend to another mom?
Okay, so my favorite book, long-term favorite book is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. It's just it's a novel, it's a classic, but to me, I really like personal development. It's really woven into that book. There's a lot of biblical stuff. There's just a lot of kind of outside the box thinking in that book. But my favorite book probably, it's not that great a book, like an enjoyable read, but I was recommended a book by Caroline Harper. I'm really funny about what my kids eat. I never thought I would be that mom, but just on my journey of wellness and learning, I kind of am that mom. So I read Baby-Led Weaning when the girls were 6 months old, and I was getting ready to transition them from, being exclusively breastfed over to food. I didn't think I would do that. I thought that I would just feed my kiddos, but I didn't. You don't have enough hands. So while they were eating, I could be doing other things like I could eat. So that was kind of the reason I chose that. It wasn't just because of the nutritional thing. So it's called Baby-Led Weaning. There's two different versions of it. There's this really long version, which I'm sure is good. I bought the cookbook version, so the text is really condensed inside the cookbook, and it's good, and I recommend it. I actually send it as a gift to a lot of new moms when they start asking me, what do you do? That way they can decide for themselves.
Yeah, we did that with our second, and it was awesome. It was amazing. So
Yeah.
Evie did that, and you could feed them from the table. You didn't have to
Yeah.
puree stuff or
just until
make your own
recently,
baby food.
yeah,
It's
the
just a nightmare.
girls would eat anything really, but now we're in this weird toddler stage. Just the other day, I heard Dakota go, "Ooh, that's gross," and I don't know where she got that. So I guess that's just a new stage we're gonna have to deal with. But I did start them right.
So part of the reason I wanted you to be like our first kind of interview guest, kind of / Facebook Live mom, is that her set of twins were the first set of babies after I did my pediatric training to go back and have to actually go back to the same hospital that I had lost Trinity. Probably they were born in 14, so maybe You know, 3 or 4 years after, yeah, my baby was born in 2010, yours were born in May
2014.
2014. So 3 years later, I actually have to go back to the same hospital, same NICU, scrub in with your husband, and go up there and check this little 3-pound baby. And that was
day one.
Yeah, that was very emotional for me to have to scrub in and have those familiar sounds. But I want to know, as a mom, this is I see this a lot, is that chiropractic is scary for kids, or it's dangerous for kids. And I know you're so adamant about having Jocelyn checked, not just because she was growth restricted, she's full-term baby, but growth restricted as a twin. But what kind of got you, maybe even from your understanding of chiropractic, maybe being bad necks, bad backs, into this thing that it's more of a lifestyle choice, and having your daughter checked in NICU at a few hours old?
Yeah, a lot of people might think that's kind of crazy, but another really neat part of that story is that Jocelyn, you know, kind of believe in signs. Jocelyn was actually in the same pod, in the same little incubator that Trinity was in. It was the exact same bed. Excuse me. Anyway, so I had been in health, you know, I was in the healthcare setting for a really long time, you know, in an intense setting, ER, ICU. And when I first started being a nurse, you know, I really truly believed, you know, the way that I was taught only from the book, that, you know, if you don't feel good, then you go get a prescription, or, you know, that was the only answer. You know, we like to learn our lessons the hard way. I had just this weird neck pain since high school. I had had a couple bad horse wrecks. I played volleyball year round, so I just thought it was normal to hurt. And I started coming to Destin whenever I met Jody and moved here. And so I would go probably weekly or bi-monthly, maybe, a couple times a month, maybe, for this neck pain that I always had. You know, lifting on really heavy patients, just stayed aggravated. And Judd and I would actually get in arguments about pain chiropractic versus wellness chiropractic. I just didn't believe in it at all. However, you know, things change. I had problems with fertility. And so I was doing the things that I was supposed to do that my doctor was telling me to do. I was taking all these meds and they weren't working. And this went on for years. And I finally decided, you know what, I've got to think outside the box here. So I went to a homeopathic doctor, started really changing my nutrition, taking supplements. I mean, I took a multivitamin, but I was never like a supplement girl, but that's kind of when that started. You know, mainly just because I would do all these things that my doctor told me to do, and my labs would never change. But when I started kind of changing my nutrition and things like that, my labs started improving. They weren't great yet, but they improved. So when I finally made the transition to going to a reproductive endocrinologist, this guy was this really strong Christian. You know, he joked a lot about test tube babies. But one thing he told me was that he wanted me to go to acupuncture, that it wasn't optional. If you were going to do IVF with him, then you had to go to acupuncture. And so, of course, I agreed to that. I'd actually done that before, just to try it. And, you know, I had this schedule. Of course, this was a really good acupuncturist that really knew what they were doing, but I had this really intense schedule that correlated with my meds. So me and Dustin started with it, talked about it, and then I talked about it with my reproductive endocrinologist, and he encouraged me to do anything that I thought would help with anything. You know, just if it'll make you feel better, if it'll do this, then you try it. You know, he's like, you know, you're swinging for the fence here. So, in addition to acupuncture, Dustin and I kind of made a little plan as I was getting ready to be triggered. If you've ever done IVF, you know what that means. And so I was adjusted really often. Then after I finally became pregnant with the twins, which actually happened the first time with that doctor and with all the other stuff I was doing, I started going to, I had a really weird pregnancy. Like, I never felt bad. I was a little tired there at the beginning, but I had kind of atypical symptoms. Just one day I started having massive reflux. And then a couple months later, I started having these terrible, terrible headaches. So the only way that I could get relief from my reflux, and I mean, it was to the point that I couldn't eat. You know, I think a lot of it was fertility meds, and then twins, just a lot of hormones. And I wasn't gaining weight, and I couldn't eat unless Dustin adjusted me. And they actually lived across the street from us at the time. And sometimes before I could even eat breakfast, before he would come to work, I would have to go to his house and get adjusted. So I did that. The headaches were horrible. They came out of nowhere. They only lasted maybe 5 or 6 weeks. But it was either that or take a narcotic, which I didn't want to do, so he would help me with that. So during that time, that was in the first probably half of my pregnancy, that started kind of changing my mind about chiropractic. Not just as a pain thing, but as if it'll work on that, then what will it do for you when you're good? So I knew, working at ER, and all these kids come in with all these chronic ear infections. I started thinking, I wonder what would happen if I had my babies adjusted from the beginning. And I was scared of it, and I started talking to Jody about it, and Jody said, you know what, you're the mama, you decide, I'll follow what you say, So I did my research. There's a lot of it out there. I talked to Mindy, Dustin's wife, a lot, and I started, when I would come in to get my regular adjustment once or twice a week, I would watch Mindy, Dustin's wife, her best friend. She has a baby that's just a little bit older than mine. It was one thing to watch Dustin adjust his own kids, but it was another thing to watch him adjust another mom that's nervous, that wants to do it, but that's scared at the same time. So I would watch her baby, Palmer. I would watch Palmer get adjusted. And it just, what you think it is for a little baby, as an adult being adjusted, it's completely different. It's not even comparable. So I just warmed up to the idea of it with Palmer, and got comfortable with it, which I have actually encouraged some other people to do. Had the twins, and now they were coming to see me the first day in the hospital just because we've gotten to be such good friends from us coming in here. But I didn't know that I was going to do it till they got there. I had this baby that was only 3 pounds. I had one that was 6 pounds, and I was scared to death. And I just thought, you know what? This makes sense to me. I've had these babies that were crammed inside me, 2 twins. And I decided that day when they got there, okay, I want them adjusted now, and I want it done today, now. So I was in my room trying to nurse Dakota. Jody and Dustin went down and adjusted Jossie, and then weirdly, and I saw this happen with my own eyes, Dustin came back and adjusted Dakota. I have like 2 lactation people in the room, and Mindy's trying to help me. I have my aunts and all these people at the bedside trying to help me with my nursing. Dustin adjusts Dakota, and it was like, oh, I get it. So that's how fast it happened. It helped with her latch, just immediately. For me, I know that doesn't happen with everybody, but so we started going weekly. We've basically been weekly now. The twins are 3. I had Lydia. She's 18 months old. First day, he adjusted her. We're good.
Yeah, I didn't know that about you made that decision that day.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to do it, but I didn't know if I wanted to do it on day 1. Nobody else was bringing their chiropractor in that I knew I would get their babies adjusted on the first day. But I just knew it just felt right to me, so I did it.
Another thing I remember going up there, and I was talking to, I guess, one of the obstetricians or somebody was there, one of the labor and delivery nurses, that they'd had like 20 sets of twins or something crazy, ridiculous like that in that week or that weekend.
So it was weird in that 24 hours. My doctor is in her 60s. She had actually delivered more babies in that 24 hours than she had ever in her career. And then that 24 hours, that OB unit in Medical City in Dallas, which is a huge OB unit, and they have a huge pediatric ICU and a huge NICU, they actually delivered more babies than they ever had in their hospital history. So it was really busy, and it was really kind of hard to get help, So, you still had all your own people in there helping you. It was neat.
But the cool thing about it is I was talking to them, they were the only set of twins that were actually, they didn't have to get supplemented with formula. Mm-hmm. And I remember they were setting up for a stay. Y'all were going to be in an extended stay there for weeks, and you ended up coming out of there a little earlier than you'd planned.
Yeah, it was like 2.5, 3 weeks.
You didn't have to supplement your babies with formula or anything
like
that?
No, we did not supplement at all. Jossie was in the NICU. She never vagaled. She never anything. She was just this teeny tiny little full-term baby. She was the same size as some of the babies that were, 2 months premature. But she was like so bright-eyed and really alert, maybe even more so than Dakota. She's still like that. It was a good experience. People get all wigged out about being in the NICU and stuff, and we had a really good experience.
So just to kind of wrap up, as far, as from a chiropractic standpoint, you think maybe seeing another person, another baby getting adjusted would be the biggest thing that would maybe offset some of those fears and anxieties about having your child checked neurologically after maybe a hard birth or at all?
Oh, absolutely. I always tell people, whether it's breastfeeding or chiropractic or sleep schedules or people have to do what's right for them. But you should still be open-minded to new things. I would encourage people to go see a baby get adjusted. Don't go to a chiropractor that's not like a pediatric chiropractor, definitely. Or even if you're pregnant, make sure that they really know what they're doing. It's just like anything else. There's good ones, there's bad ones. We're really lucky that we have a good one here. But if you saw my girls come in here, one of my twins can be a little anxious. We just hung with it. She was anxious. You could tell that the adjustment didn't hurt her. It was more of, I'm in a new place and I want to be in my house, and oh my gosh, here's this guy. Now they love Dustin. She actually runs into his arms when she sees him. It took us a long time to get there. But, like whenever we're here, they have this big, huge office. It's like a track meet in here, and there's all these arcade games and all this fun stuff. Like the girls think it's fun to come here, and they come in here and will get on the tables by themselves. That's how much they like it.
Cool. So as we wrap up here, this is something I'd like to do again with other moms. Certainly post your comments or your questions that you have. If you advise on a product under $100 or a good read, or you have a chiropractic shared experience, share it under there. Would like to keep this conversation going a little bit and maybe in the news feed. Also, if there's a recommended, like if there's a mom out there that has significantly impacted your life, she lives here local, let's perhaps interview her and get some good tips and tricks and things.
Maybe you should interview your wife, because she's really impacted me.
We could do that.
Maybe
I'll
I
let
can
you
interview her. Yeah.
So thanks so much for tuning in, and keep the comments going, keep the questions going, and we'll try. I'm sure Lindsay don't mind getting on there and answering a few too, and I certainly don't mind, and I'm sure Mindy won't either. So thanks so much. Hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.